What up, everybody? It's Double G on the Double G Show, but my guest is someone who I do the Fight Game podcast with, John LaRocca. What is going on?
It's going good, man. We were just talking a little off air about the day, but you watched it too. I know the Niners.
Oh God!
I don't know. It's just like there's so much injuries and stuff. I guess I got a little bit of sympathy, but
Here's my analogy. Okay, so you have a car. This car runs extremely well, and you're like, coming up on 100,000 miles here. I should probably get a tune-up, or I should probably get it checked out. Just do the 1,000-mile service. But you're like, you know what? This car just runs so well. I'm gonna see how much I can get out of it. Let's see if we can get to 120. And that's 49ers. For the last 4 years, they've been in the playoffs, and so they're not just playing 17 games a season. They're playing 19 and 20 games every season. And this was like, can we get one more out of these guys? And the tread on the tires, man. One of the tires blew out, and that's the team that we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Once I saw that, I have various sports apps, so I get various sports updates of the same news. And once I saw, Brock Purdy out of the game, I'm like, all right, well,
yeah.
I'll watch, but I hope for the best. And yeah, it was kind of rough.
All right, so what are we doing here on a Sunday evening, Monday morning? Not necessarily our recording time. We're actually pre-recording the Fight Game podcast for the Wrestling Observer F4W, and I decided that that's we're talking about Survivor Series 89, so it's kind of evergreen show. We're not going to talk about any of the news, and I was like, you know what? So much, there's some interesting news plus Full Gear happened with the Survivor Series cards, and there's injuries, and there's a return that we'll talk about in a second. And I was like, why don't we just record a short version of the Fight Game podcast? We'll put it on the Fight Game Media Network as the Double G Show, and we'll go from there. We'll, just to kind of, I would miss talking about these things with John. So I was like, let's just do a quick one, and we'll put it up on our feed. So that's what we are doing here. So much so that if you are a listener of the Fight Game podcast, you know that we have these little segments, and I got these little jingles ready. So we're going to do a shortened version, but we're also going to do our thumbs up, thumbs down. So let's kick it off.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Now, when we do this on the Fight Game podcast, we kind of go the Friday to Thursday night as sort of what the week is, but we just did one. So John, this last weekend, things that you saw, there was SmackDown, there was an AEW pay-per-view, the Continental Classic brackets just came out. I don't know, Joey Janela's bitching about people making fun of him for...
Fuck Joey Janela. Coming at me on my DMs talking shit and then freaking blocking me so I can respond back. Fuck that
guy. I watch him on Twitter. He hates wrestling fans. He absolutely hates wrestling fans.
Him too.
And look, he gets trolls up the wazoo. I'm sure he does.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
But I guess GCW was at the AEW show, and they were giving out flyers and stuff, and people were making fun of him. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do that at shows. Yeah. So anyways, because Joey Janela got made fun of by these bad people, he decided to take it out on all wrestling fans and decided that all of the wrestling fans were jackasses. So I don't like that relationship that a lot of the wrestlers have. I give some of the fans the benefit of the doubt, speak to the good ones, and then deal with the bad ones in your replies. You don't have to treat everybody like that. So
yeah.
So all those things happen. So of the stuff that we've seen since we last recorded, what is your thumbs up for this weekend?
Well, my thumbs up has to be that I know we're gonna talk about it in more detail later, but or we can talk about it now. The CM Punk.
Let's talk about it now.
As the fifth man on the original Bloodline team.
See, you think I spoiled it for you in some way, and I was like, this is kind of what it looks like, but I don't know for sure.
You didn't tell me CM Punk though. Huh?
No. That's what I'm saying. I thought Seth Rollins. I thought it was. Seth Rollins.
Well, it's funny too. Like I was, I didn't see nothing online about it, so they really kept this close to the chest, and I was, I just turned on SmackDown and kind of went quickly going through it, and then I was like, oh my god, that was pretty huge. That was a big deal. That was a big angle and a memorable one too. So that was really cool to see. And I was just wondering, we were just talking about that on our last show.
Yeah.
Man, they don't have CM Punk right now. They don't have Drew McIntyre right now. When those guys coming back, and Punk is back for Survivor Series, that just definitely just ticks the anticipation up big time. I think for that pay-per-view.
I had one worry of him being in this match, and it's I hope he wrestles smartly, at least as smart as you can in a WarGames match. I don't want to see him get hurt because he's got some big matches coming up. And the second thing was that they basically stole the weekend from AEW. I thought this was the big news of the weekend. AEW's Full Gear was Saturday. It's kind of like, oh, it's AEW pay-per-view weekend, kind of what happens on SmackDown, it'll sort of be forgotten the next day. No, that was the big thing. And, so much so that I was not that I was sad for it. This is wrestling. This is how wrestling works. But I was like, poor AEW. Like they were able to get 10,000 in that building. I don't know what the buy rate's going to be. They had the Costco guys on the show. What's funny is, so my son Brian, he's like, hey, you should interview that guy AJ, the big boom guy. And I was like, interview him for what? He's like, I didn't know he was doing wrestling stuff. I was like, he actually probably be hard to get. And he's like, yeah, plus, he's always in character, and he would just frustrate the hell out of you. I said, absolutely, he would. I mean, it'd probably be worth it for the views. But what I didn't realize is that my kid knew those kids. He knew Big Justice. He knew the Rizzler. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know. Like, you should have told me. I would have been more clued in on who these guys were before they had, the stuff happen. Though on Rampage, I know, from what I understand, I didn't watch the pre-show stuff, but from what I understand, the match was fine for what it was. But I thought the Rampage thing was really silly and goofy. And what do we need a weigh-in for? Like, there was no reason. And then the whole joke, the butt of the whole thing was, QT's like super svelte these days, and he came in at like 230 or whatever, and so this guy Big Boom gets on the thing, and his thing goes all the way to 500, and the Big Justice kid goes, oh, you messed with the scale, and then it was so like amateur, right? Like, this is professional wrestling.
Yeah, well, yeah.
For the 0 hour was so amateur hour. Like, it's something that they had they were in a building, but like you and your friends could have shot something better than what they. It was just, I was like, come on, why do we do this? Like, why do we make everything look so amateurish? It is professional wrestling. Why does it look like I had the same problem with NXT. Like, why is this amateur hour? This is not like college, acting class. Like, so.
Well, maybe we'll see what it looks like ratings wise for Rampage, because Rampage has been, pretty damn near death, with ratings. So we'll see if this helps.
Maybe, can I tell you what the best part of Rampage was?
Oh God,
the 9-minute. They closed with the 9-minute November Rain video, which wasn't the same one. It wasn't the same one as the week before. It was specifically geared towards like the last week of TV.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching that thing, and I'm like, this is really good. And my thought is like, Tony's television, he envisions all of the stories kind of how we saw it on the November Rain video, where everything looks like cool and it looks like it has meaning, and you got the logic, and we're leading to this thing like there's a reason. And the TV is absolutely not like that. The TV is so disjointed and not logical. But when you put it in that video, it looks really cool. And I was like, this is how Tony in the video is how Tony sees his storylines. But what we see is absolutely not what this video is. So, I mean, the video is cool. I hope they keep doing them. But it is not the example of what actually happens on their television.
No. And those videos are pretty cool. I mean, obviously ECW did those, Memphis before this, stuff like that. But
Well, the ones that I thought of immediately were the WrestleMania 17
mm-hmm.
videos where they used like the real popular songs
yeah,
at the time, and they would tell the story of the feud in these videos. That's what I liked about this November Rain one. I was like, man, this is the best thing I've seen on AEW like in a long time. But it was like a recap video of their feuds.
Yeah, I saw that right. I think right after 0 Hour. I got the days that right before the pay per view started. So the 0 Hour was just ending. So I saw that at least I think half of that video looked good. Yeah.
All right, my thumbs up is Kyle Fletcher, who we'll talk about, because I went into this show thinking he and Will are buddies. I wonder if he can get the Duke here, because if he does, I think it'll be a really big thing for him. And they had the match, and I thought the match was really good. I thought the finish should have been that tombstone on the steps. Like, I don't know why they kept going, but I thought it was the best match on the show. Kyle Fletcher is like, to me, he's like the 2025 if Randy Orton was 20 years old now, like Randy Orton's, this is kind of who he would be. And I'm just so high on him. Like if like we looked at these guys as rookie cards, like I just buy all the Kyle Fletcher rookie cards right now. And I think he's really going to be the breakout star of 2025. Now, can they keep the momentum? Like Tony Khan isn't always great with keeping the momentum. Like I hope that they have like a full on plan for the rise of Kyle Fletcher. I thought he looked awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily like Will losing, but I think this is one that he's going to be okay with coming back. But I also don't really want to see him get his win back. Like I kind of want this thing to stick and this to kind of be the craw for Will Ospreay. And then like 2 years down the road, then, they have another match, but already when Fletcher's like a made guy. So that's kind of what I hope. But I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Kyle's my guy.
Yeah. I thought the same thing you did. Well, definitely Kyle needed to win that match. And I also thought the finisher came soon after the Tombstone Powertron on that steps. That was
nuts. I was worried that he was either going to slip and like break his ankle, or that he's like going to slip and drop Will's head onto the steps,
or just even slice his knee up, or because it was because the way that little triangle is to fit in the corner of the ring post there for those steps. There's not that much room, but to their credit, they did it, and I'm sure it was no fun for either of them, but I asked my same question I had to Dave and Jeremy Feinstein, who was there as well watching the show, and I said, like, okay, what's next? That's my first thing I said. What's next for Kyle?
Yeah.
Because we all know Tony's track record on follow-ups, not good. I said he has to move up. He needs to move up. In my opinion, Ospreay needs to be gone for a while, but we'll talk about what's coming up my thumbs down. But like, Ospreay's needs to be gone for a while. This is something that Kyle needs to brag about constantly. He needs to continue to move up. He needs to possibly win a championship. Maybe it's the C2. Maybe it's the TNT title, because now it's on the babyface and Daniel Garcia. I thought maybe Ricochet was going to win the title from Takeshita, and then he could have beat Ricochet for that pretty quickly. And so he's in a higher position to when an Ospreay comes back to get his revenge, etc. But that should happen like months from now. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So
I agree with you 100%. And Brian Alvarez is on the Kyle Fletcher needs to win the Continental Classic train, which I think would be great. Though the way that I look at these brackets, I kind of wonder if we're going Okada Ospreay, and like, because he's in the Continental Classic. So, but Fletcher, should do really, really well if he's not going to win. But I would not mind him winning. I think that would be awesome too.
No, he would need to win it. I mean, he's in it, so I think he should win it for sure.
All right, what's your thumbs down?
My thumbs down is the announcing the C2 on a Sunday evening instead of on a pay-per-view where you have your highest audience watching, right? I don't understand why you don't take advantage of that, and make it newsworthy that night when people are talking about AEW on that Saturday night. And you got Sunday where it's going to be buried with a lot of stuff. Like you said, the CM Punk thing kept going through the weekend.
Football was all day
was
today.
on all week, all weekend. People, it's just, I think you got to hit with the irons hot on that pay-per-view day, and I think that was a missed opportunity from AEW. And like I don't know if there was I don't know how they even presented it online, but I didn't even think about it till later, and I was kind of scrolling through my timeline, and I saw they announced the
I think it's just like a selection show. I watched it last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone showing off who's in it, and then showing the brackets. Okay. So I don't know if it was any different than that, but yeah, on a Sunday night, I'm not turning that thing on to see who's going to be in it. I'm just going to wait till it comes out. They could. What I would have done is I would have said, we're going to unveil the one person in each block tonight, and then when you do that, then you talk about when the rest of the brackets are going to be unveiled on YouTube, whatever. I don't know why they don't. Sometimes I just feel like his whole goal is let's just get through this goddamn show and then we'll figure everything else out.
And then I know one person is Dan Garcia, who just won the TNT title. So remember last year what they did? It was all the belts were on the line during his tournament.
Well, it was Kingston's for sure, but that was because he was trying to be super babyface and say he wants his title defended completely, which was an offshoot from the Strikeforce Grand Prix. If you remember when the Strikeforce used to do the Grand Prix, if you were a champ, your belt was defended if you were in the Grand Prix. Yeah. So that made sense, but I don't think that they should do that with any belts. Daniel Garcia should not lose his title if he's having a qualifying match in this thing. At least I don't think it makes much sense. But so one of the Twitter guys that I follow, who I respect, he's a younger guy, so he's kind of from the generation under us from an age standpoint. His name is Ibu from Wrestle Purists. He's also doing some stuff for Fightful, but he had the same thing that you did. He said, well, now he's got this belt, so then why does he want to get this belt? And then Dax Harwood replied, and he was like, gets to win more matches, gets more money, could possibly win that second belt, elevates himself. And so that was his reasoning.
Great.
I don't know why he needed to reply, but maybe he really felt a certain way about it. So
I understand what Dax is trying to do, but we're not talking about wrestling as this is angles right now. Real. We're just talking about how booking wise it doesn't really for his character.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, and he has to lose some of these matches, so that's not good either. But it might set up future contenders, depending who those are. So
he's got to be booked strong. I think if he's got a title, you have to book him strong. You can't. He can't just take pins like he did last year, because that just devalues that belt that he has.
No, he's not gonna. I mean, someone's gonna beat him. I don't know who, but during that tournament, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Daniel Garcia guy. So.
I'm not either, and I didn't think his match with Jack was all that great. And a lot of my I don't remember which announcer said it, but one of the announcers was like, he's showing so much aggression and intensity, and I'm like, yeah. But there's levels to it. You can't go to just spitting out of your teeth because you're so mad all the time. You have to there's ranges of the intensity that you show. And there was a moment in that match where I was like, he's the dopiest babyface of all time. He better win this thing. And thankfully he did.
And that crowd didn't give two shits about that either.
No, I mean, you saw the angle, the kidnapping and all that stuff. And then they I think the first move in that match after the kidnap was an arm wringer.
And I think too, it's also the character Jack Perry plays, the scapegoat character. It's just,
you can't really get anything on him, really.
It's just it doesn't look true to him. It looks like he's playing a character, and you don't believe he's this character. And I don't think that's why people really give him much heat for this character. They really cared for him. It's not and I was telling I think he should have went the Dominic Mysterio route. He should have been a Punk's a little heel who's kind of always sticks and moves and runs away. Gets his ass kicked a lot. You can still look at Dominic, man. He's making a whole freaking career, out of it. And Jack Perry went this, I don't know, Raven-esque character, and it's
moody emo kid.
Yeah. It's not good, man. He was such an easy guy to book, dude. He was so easy.
Everybody saw him and was like, I want to work with him. I can help get this guy over. What was that? Brian Alvarez said that, right? He's like, I want to work with Jack.
Yeah. I mean, he's just an easy guy to book. The only there's some challenges because his personality.
He's a little dry.
Yeah. So that is something, but even back then I was constantly telling him, you come through that curtain, you gotta fucking pump your fist in the air, roar or something. He would just kind of mope out. And it's you're lucky people kind of, for him, he was lucky people know who his dad was and everything like that. And so and he's a good looking kid and they wanted to cheer him, but man, you got to give him something, anyways, that's a whole nother show, but
it was almost like he watched the 1, 2, 3 kid in his first 3 WWE matches and was like, that's who I want to be, just kind of am I supposed to be here? I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be wrestling. Am I in a WWE ring? What's going on here? This is crazy to me. Or my thumbs down. This is not for anything that this person did. It is just for the unfortunate timing. My girl, Jade Cargill, she's going to be out for several months, it looks like, with an injury. We don't know what that injury is. They wrote her out of the U.S. Women's title tournament. They wrote her out of WarGames. She's going to be replaced in that match. And it's just unfortunate because it was pretty clear that there was a program for her and Bianca at some point, probably geared towards WrestleMania, which is a big moment. Now, she's still got enough time. Maybe they could, possibly circle back to it, but 3 months is 3 months. And by that time, they'll already have the plans and everything for Mania. So I'm just hopeful for her that this is not, this is just a one-time fluke thing and she's going to be back. Because, the other thing about it is not to say that she was improving by, tons and tons of every week just getting way better, but she was incrementally improving. You could see it. Being with Bianca helps her from that star performance that Bianca does, and so it's kind of a bummer. I wanted to see her get to that WrestleMania thing, but we'll have to that's going to be on delay right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but she can still have return at WrestleMania, do something there, and then set up and later on you can have the program with Bianca if that's what they're going to do, and have something for the summer and all that. So it kind of works out. But I know WrestleMania, but everything can't happen at WrestleMania. It's all so you got to save some for the rest of the year. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I was wondering what was going on. I thought maybe they're just keeping her out of both matches. One, to protect her from losing. One, I think the tournament, and then two, out of the WarGames match to kind of. But it's I think what was the injury? I didn't read any report.
The WWE version of the injury was just
I saw a laundry list of their injuries.
Yeah, just a bunch of medical mumbo jumbo. But I don't know what her actual injury is.
Oh, okay. All right. I might see. Well, it's just but I wish they were being covered because I liked what they were doing the tag division, the women. So I'm guessing those belts are gonna be vacated, right?
Yeah.
Unless Bianca could choose a partner kind of gimmick thing or something. But they also have this US women's title tournament, so maybe they should wait till after that and
figure it out. All right, we're going to give you a shortened version of a segment we also do in the Fight Game podcast called the Report Card.
All right, it's time to go to school, son. Come on, get your hands up, man. You need an interpreter? It's time to go to school.
All right. AEW Full Gear. I will say, watching it by yourself later than everyone else is not the best way to watch it because I didn't get spoiled. I think the only thing I got spoiled on was the Kyle Fletcher win. Though I thought the card was pretty predictable on wins and losses. There was not one finish that I was super surprised in at all. So watching it that is not the best. Like I watched half of it before I went to bed, then I watched the rest of it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, I don't like how YouTube and Apple TV works because the 10-second skip button is not great on the YouTube app. So I just watch it on my iPad because it's a lot easier to use the YouTube app on the iPad. But what would be your letter grade for AEW Full Gear, watching with Big Dave, watching with Jeremy, and I think Mary also came at the end or something, right?
Yeah, Mary Furpo, she does her, hour left in the show running,
Yeah, she understands. She's like, these shows are too long. I can't sit for this whole goddamn thing. I'll come at the end.
I'm trying to remember what match she got there for. Maybe the end of the Dan Garcia Jack Perry match, I think, where she kind of showed up. But she's great. My letter grade is, I'm gonna go with the B minus. Actually, like I think I tweeted this out. It wasn't the best AEW pay per view, but it wasn't the worst AEW pay per view, and I really enjoyed, to my surprise, the Mercedes Moné and Chris Statler match. I thought that was really good. The best pro wrestling on the show, in my opinion, from bell to bell.
You know my problem with that match, and it has nothing to do with what they did in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
The match didn't sync up with the build to the match. I thought the build sucked. Chris's character's ice cold because they're switching her back and forth, and the stuff with Camille was really bad. And so you go into this match, and you're like, okay, so it's a mid-card babyface against Mercedes. And I thought, okay, like, she should get some nice power spots. Mercedes should beat her. But that was like the kitchen sink match. Like Mercedes had to pull out like every single thing to beat her.
That was a story, yeah.
And if this elevates Chris, then I think it makes some sense, and we'll see if that happens. But if Chris just goes back to being normal Chris, then I think Mercedes shouldn't have had to have pulled out everything like she did. She should have probably beat her a little sooner than she did. But I liked the match too. I thought it was the best match up to that point. And I actually would liked Roddy and MJF too, but that no one really cared about Roddy in that match, which was unfortunate.
I mean, there was good matches on the show. There was a god-awful match, that 4-way tag in the beginning was just such
It didn't make any sense either.
I mean, Dave and I were laughing because at one point early on, Malachi Black does this big double stomp on someone, right? He's all by himself with his opponent. Big double stomp on the top rope, right? Finn Balor's finisher.
Mm-hmm.
And he just goes out to do a moonsault to the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about fucking pin the guy, win this match? And we're just laughing. It was so bad. And then we're just shaking our heads. And it was such a mess. That match sucked. And then the match after that, NGF and Roderick Strong, was a good wrestling match. But the finish came out so flat. And no one cared about Roderick Strong. He's a good wrestler. And they had a good wrestling match. But the finish was kind of flat on the finish. And the post match was freaking awful. And maybe it's going to play into the storyline later, but
NXT, man, that was the theme to me, is every time they tried to tell a story outside of the ring, my first thought was NXT.
Yeah. Well, it was, I think NXT is better than that when it comes to, PLE post-match stuff, but this was like, you have MGF going to Pillmanize the arm of Roderick Strong, and he does it. And then here comes the music, all about, the Adam Cole's music. He's running out. The Taven and Bennett running out. Apparently Kyle O'Reilly runs that out the last and starts bitching to the guys for not being out here earlier. It was bizarre. It was like,
the other thing about the Kyle O'Reilly thing that's weird is he then came out as like the ass kicker Kyle O'Reilly with the conglomeration. And I was like, can we pick a lane? Is he going to be the emotional guy who's sad for his friends and going to be the guy who's going to, kick the ass of the biggest bads in the entire company? It can't be both guys.
Yeah, but then he got his ass kicked, and then even that, I think I got his ass kicked in that match, and then the the last next two matches, right, with a women's match, and I think Osprey was Kyle's after that, and then the whole Mina thing with Mariah May was horrible.
That's NXT. That was NXT. That was Ashanti the Adonis and Deion Lennox and Carmen Petrovic. Like, that's what that was to me. And I was like, okay, two things are going to happen. Either Toni Storm comes in or she's turning on poor Mina.
Yeah.
And the second one happened, which I thought was really silly because together, I think they have unique charisma together. They're really fun together. So now they're having a match against each other. And so we're just biding our time until Toni Storm comes back, I guess. But I thought they were like a cool little duo. Like, I really enjoyed their, as silly as their segments were with, the boob shake stuff, which I just call on the Observer podcast I do with Dave. I just call it the Eddie Guerrero dance so that I don't get in trouble. But like that stuff is that there is charisma in what they're doing, even if you think it's silly or not. They're showing personality, and now I don't want to see them fight each other. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and then the rest of it, like, I mean, we all had low energy because we didn't care for Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry for the TNT title.
What about Jay White and Hangman?
That was a good wrestling match, but I don't know. It's like I don't connect with Hangman. I don't connect with Jay White because I don't believe he's all of a sudden this babyface character. I don't know. It was kind of like a quick babyface turn, with no reason why, or he just kind of all of a sudden came back as a babyface. Whatever. It was a good wrestling match. People, Dave and Jeremy liked that one too, but Takeshita and Ricochet, like, no one believed that Ricochet can win. I thought maybe because Kyle won, I thought maybe that would be a belt he would win because that was like a belt synonymous to Osprey too, the international title. They could do like a quick title change back to Kyle, but like it was just a match. It was just there. Ricochet, he's dead in this company. I don't think he's there's not much you could do with him. Maybe turn him heel, but whatever. In the main event, I mean, no one seemed to really care. No one seemed to answer it. It's kind of like,
how could anybody care?
Yeah. It was like we're just waiting for it to end. It went too long, of course. And the angle, I don't know, the angle, post-match angle was nutty, but apparently they're setting up a four-way with the next pay-per-view.
Oh, I hate four-ways.
I know.
My least favorite match is only a three-way is just slightly better than a four-way to me. So any especially for a championship, it's like, come on. Like, let's learn from WWE's fails here. Let's make this championship. And okay, so let's say this. Let's say the Death Riders are the crazy big bads, and we want to get rid of them. Does it just become a handicap match, 3-on-1 against Jon Moxley? If it's not, then it's stupid.
Yeah. And who's in? I mean, who's technically in it? It's going to be obviously Moxley. Darby, I guess, will be one. I don't think it's going to be Orange Cassidy. I mean, Hangman and Christian, but why would Christian be in it? He just needs to wait, right?
Yeah, he's got the thing.
So it could be OC. Orange Cassidy could be back in it. But he just got his ass beat. So,
all right, I had some interesting. So you went B-. I went B, very close, but I had some interesting thoughts as I was.
Just realized I went long on that. Just my letter grade.
It's fine. We'll get out of here pretty quickly. Yeah. But I put in the Discord. I said I posted a GIF of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I said, when Daniel Garcia looks in the mirror, what he sees. And then I put a GIF of Spike Dudley, and I says, what we see in Daniel Garcia. Like that there's a complete disconnect. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't feel like he's a star. Like, he definitely should. He should purport himself as a star, but he's not. The level of interest in him is not nearly what I think he want or he believes or his
even
status
Tony.
Or whatever. Yeah, Tony, same thing.
Tony,
I see a lot of people saying like Daniel Garcia should be a main event star by this time next year. I'm like,
no,
he's gonna have to improve a lot in order for that to happen. And I like him too. This is not a negative thing on him. It's just like, where is he? Like, we saw the pop where he was like, oh yeah, I just re-signed, and everyone's like, huh? We didn't even know your contract was up. That's how, that's how disconnected he was from that character, or Tony from that character.
He's like I mean, not to insult these guys because they're better workers, but he's like, and better, it looked more credible to him, but he'd be a good guy for, the Jim Powers role, or, Denny Brown role or something like that. You just like a competitive job guy, basically, would he be the enhancement guy? So I, I don't see what everyone sees, or maybe you could get maybe something out of it if he was a tag guy with a much more charismatic partner, and maybe they're more of a technical team or something like that. You could do something, but I don't see him as like a top baby face in the company, or even a top heel.
Ricochet and Takeshita was way dialed down than I thought it was going to be, and I kind of wondered if it was because coming after Osprey Fletcher, they couldn't, they couldn't do all of that stuff, but then also knowing that they were going to be right in front of Swerve and Lashley.
Forgot about that match.
So you do the big man, little man stuff, and that's going to have a bigger impact with Bobby Lashley throwing Swerve around than Takeshita and Ricochet. So they're in a weird spot, but they didn't really go for it either. They didn't go out and try and have the match of the night. They just went out and did, I don't know, pretty normal, maybe a little bit longer than what a Dynamite main event would have been.
I just think too, like, damage is done already on Ricochet, and it's in record time. It feels
he's
like
getting he's getting the IWGP shot at Wrestle Dynasty.
I know, and no one gives a shit.
They got to
like
heat him up something fierce, man. Like for our buddy,
what? Like, how were they going to do?
Our buddy Chris Samsa was talking about the show, and he's just like, it was. I don't think he knows what the numbers are, but he was kind of like down on the popularity of this year's Wrestle Kingdom. So I don't know, man. If I am New Japan, and I'm like, how much of an American audience are we going to get for this Wrestle Dynasty show? We're working with AEW. Can we get a guy who's on a hot streak, or are we going to get a guy who's losing all these matches? I'd prefer the hot streak guy. So hopefully they do something with Ricochet.
The money match that I think will get American fans to order the show is Kenny return to the ring against Gabe Kidd. So that's pretty strong for that fan base to order. But I don't know if it's like strong enough to like get people that have kind of checked out of AEW, to go back. So, we had a discussion about that. Kenny Omega, New Japan first, and AEW at Dave's, and I was trying to figure out the temperature of the company, like what they feel about this, and then so it was an interesting conversation about that.
And then the Lashley and we were talking about Swerve, like Swerve's going to lose this match. How's it going? Could we have done a little cheating in that match to protect Swerve a little bit? Like, dude, I'd just eat all of Bobby Lashley's best moves and lose clean.
I thought it went too longer than it should have. Actually, I thought it should have been a little quicker, but very physical match. Bobby needed to be very physical, very dominant. They could have done something on the front end with Swerve hot on MVP and maybe hot on Benjamin. And then, Lashley kind of like to make it short. Like it didn't have to be long, and then set up some kind of rematch. And I don't know, where they go from here? Like obviously another rematch is going to happen.
Why though? Swerve got pinned so clean. Like, why do we need to see another match? There was no interference, so there's no reason for him to be like, I deserve a rematch here. I was like as clean as a whistle.
I saw Shelton Benjamin's in the C2. Is Swerve in it?
No, Swerve's not in the C2.
All right, so I'm sure. So what do you do now? Do you have Swerve beat Lashley, and then that's not good because he's whether we have maybe Lashley's a guy that's gonna beat Daniel Garcia. God, can you imagine that match? That should be like 3 minutes.
All right,
I don't know.
So the other thing I was going to say, while I would give that pay-per-view a B just for the wrestling and the event, I think as it relates to the bigger picture and the stories they created out of that, I think it's a D. What the hell? What did they leave us with that? Coming next, get ready to watch. Dynamite.
No, yeah.
Like if it was just Mox and Hangman at the end. Now, I would have switched the winner of that match. But if it was like, let's say Hangman won, Mox wins, they go nose to nose, and you go off air, and that's the next guy.
Yeah. Oh,
awesome.
Jay White's not for. Jay White will be in that 4-way.
Jay White is in the 4-way.
Yeah, not OC. Yeah.
Great. Like now we'll see why does Hangman hate Moxley, and Moxley has the loss in that match in San Francisco that we saw that, and so there's reason there. But no, like then they just did so many things at the end. So I think as a B in the ring, as a show, I enjoyed myself. I was not that frustrated. But coming out of it, am I excited? Am I fired up? What am for Dynamite on Wednesday? The C2 is what a good friend of mine would call a cheat code. Like, yeah, you have the cheat code to kind of get you through. People are going to love the wrestling. The company's going to feel like a sport for once, and then you're going to go back to your nonsense after.
Remember though, we had the last year C2. We thought, okay, it's going to be just matches and clean finishes. No, remember they kept bleeding in storylines that they were doing with these matches and kind of ruined a lot of that sports. So I hope they learned their lesson from last year and they don't do that. But I have a feeling we're going to see some of those creep into this tournament.
All right, real quick. C2, we have in the blue block, it is Okada, Kyle Fletcher, Garcia, The Beast, Mortos, Mark Briscoe, and Shelton Benjamin. I hope we have an alternate. Shelton's up there. He's going to try to keep up with these young puppies.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he could pull a hamstring. He could I just want, like, if Shelton, I don't need him to push through anything. The dude is doing good stuff right now. In the gold league. There was injuries last year. Like people were getting dinged up. Like Will Ospreay in the Gold League. Will Ospreay, Juice Robinson, Brody King, Ricochet, Claudio, and Darby Allin. So who is not in this tournament? I put a list together here.
Jay White.
So no Roderick Strong, no Adam Cole, no Kyle, no MJF, no Malachi, no Jay White, no Hangman, no Orange Cassidy, no Jack Perry, no Takeshita. No Eddie Kingston, no Pac. Who else? I think that's about it from the folks who could have been in it. Not that they had to be in it. No Malachi, no Roosh. So just in the blue league, Okada, Fletcher, probably the two favorites. Maybe Garcia as your third favorite. In the gold league, Ospreay, probably Darby, and then Ricochet, Claudio. We'll see how hot they want to keep the Death Riders. What is your pick coming out of this right now on this day before the tournament even starts? Who's your final?
It has to be Kyle Fletcher because you have to continue that momentum. Or if not, then
so Kyle and Ospreay in a rematch.
That's what But here's the thing: they shouldn't be. Will should not be around the rest of the year. Or, he should be gone till we should be building up a rematch between Kyle and Will Ospreay at Revolution.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, I know it's gonna hurt him for me gone, but if you really want to sell this injury angle, he's just coming back like a week later or 2 weeks later for the C2. Like, what the hell, this guy got pile driver on steps. He got brain buster on the top turnbuckle. The match. Obviously, like all Ospreay matches, they kind of go overboard with a lot of stuff. They went a little too far with stuff. Kind of gets ridiculous. But, okay, the idea. Fletcher beats him in the middle. Fletcher hurts him. That's good, right? But they didn't sell the angle.
Yeah.
There should have been doctors in there. We should have seen the show should have been stopped with like him being carted out on a stretcher all the way to the ambulance, people concerned in the hallway as he passes by. Like, build it up big. Like, holy shit. Not only did Kyle beat Will Ospreay, but he might have ended his career.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do none of that. And it was just like, here comes old Mark Davis, the old parking attendant at the arena comes out, and he's like, you mopes out there, and that was it. And I was like, dude, like, so, and then if he's really going to be wrestling in the C2 Will Ospreay, it's like, man, what a waste. Oh, it's already a waste of what they did, really. Yeah. I mean, the big money idea behind what they did has already been wasted.
I think so. I agree with you 100%. You can't not have Will in this and have this tournament with the ode to the G1, because Will was so great in the G1, and that's part of why you have him, is so you can do stuff like this. But yeah, that did not vibe with that story that they were telling. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people think it could be Okada and Ospreay at the end. I would like to see Kyle in there at the end. Ospreay, and I guess the second person would be Darby. But if Darby's in there and they're kind of getting him ready for Moxley, then does he have to win it? Should he keep taking pins? So the booking of these up and comers is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, Darby should not be in it, honestly.
He might not be in it because he just crashed that truck. Who knows if he's even
one of those other guys on your list should have been in that spot, just because Darby should be focused on this whole Death Rider thing. He should be on that, not a fucking round robin tournament.
Yeah. All right, that is it. Double G show. Thanks, impromptu John LaRocca. I just sprung it on him earlier today. And if you want to listen to the Fight Game podcast, we do it every week. This Survivor Series recap episode, this review, this Thanksgiving episode we're going to do, I'm going to make it free on YouTube, on Apple Pods, and on Spotify. They have Observer subscriptions there. It'll only be behind the paywall on the actual website. So there'll be multiple ways that you can listen to us on there. But this is kind of what, if you enjoyed this is what John and I do every Thursday night, Friday morning, on that website. So check us out over there. All right, for John, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.